Hi everyone, here is the 6th game in the Brilliancy series, and this is Viktor Korchnoi versus a young Garry Kasparov when he was about 19, and this was played in the Lausanne Olympiad of 1982, and this was Switzerland versus the Soviet Union, and Korchnoi versus Kasparov. Korchnoi was white, and he opened with d4, after which came knight f6, c4, g6. So it looks like Kasparov wants to play King's Indian. But after these moves, he now plays c5, transposing into a Benoni. Then it ends up in a modern Benoni. After d5, d6, knight c3, castles, knight f3, e6. Castles, e takes d5, c takes d5, and a6. And black hopes to make use of the bishop's open diagonal, potential outpost to e5, maybe play with knight h5 and f5 as we are going to see, and also a queenside pawn majority. But white has a central pawn majority and a lot more space. So this makes it in for a very sharp game. a4, which white always plays to clamp down on b5 to slow down black's queenside play. Also possible is to play a5 and if b5 take on pass on with a double edge, which is double edged because black will get an half open b line. Rook e8, another trump for black in the modern Benoni, the half open e line. Knight d2, a trump for white where he can coordinate an attack on black's backward d6 pawn by knight c4 and bishop f4. Knight b d7, h3, rook b8, knight c4, knight e5, knight a3, and now white's knight is misplaced on a3. Kasparov turns his attention to the king side with knight h5, e4, and rook f8. Previously played a lot was f5, e takes f5, bishop takes f5, and after g4, forking these two pieces, black can get a strong attack with bishop takes d4, h takes g4, queen h4, g takes h5, rook f8 to prevent a bishop f4 defense, h6, bishop h8, and now knight c4, which is supposed to be the refutation in this line because after knight g4, once white gives up his queen, he takes on d6, and white has two bishops and a knight against the queen, which is usually better, and this position, like black's bishop is like hemmed in by the pawn on a6, and white's knight is very strong and he has a passed d pawn and open lines for bishops, so this position especially favours the three pieces, and this position is considered better for white by eco. So this made this variation fall into disrepute. But now Kasparov comes up with this idea of rook f8 to provide more punch to the f5 thrust. Now white I think should have played queen e2 to discourage b5, but instead he plays king h2 and now f5. Now white shouldn't play e takes f5, bishop takes f5 and g4, because after takes, check, king g1 and knight takes g4, because it went with check. Now when white sacks his queen, then he only gets two pieces for it, so therefore it is lost. Instead he plays f4 and now b5. The point being is that Kasparov leaves this knight on pre for 7 moves, but it can never really be taken because once the bishop and e5 comes in to bear down on g3, black's attack becomes almost unstoppable, so it should never be taken. And when it is taken, some fireworks occur. A takes b5, a takes. Again, if f takes e5, bishop takes c5, threatening to win for the knights, and bishop takes g and knight takes g3 would win. So knight takes, f takes. Now if f takes c5, bishop takes c5, there isn't a threat to win the knights, but now would come bishop f4, knight takes f4, g takes f4, bishop takes f4, king f1, and queen h4. And black has two pawns for the piece, two raking bishops, pressure against h3 and a very strong attack, and this looks winning. So he plays bishop takes e4, bishop d7, queen e2, queen b6, knight a3 and rook e8. And black has enough compensation for a pawn there with strong attacking chances. And now Korchnoi plays bishop d2, a blunder. He should have played something like queen c2, queen b4, bishop d2, queen d4 and rook ae1 with a dynamically equal position. Black has very good compensation for the pawn, but there is nothing conclusive. However, after bishop d2, it looks like the pawn can't be taken, but it is taken, and I presume Korchnoi intended rook fb1 trapping the queen, but now there is a stunning resource here which Korchnoi must have overlooked, and if you want to try and spot it, please stop the video now. Well, the idea is that there is a pin on the E line and there is potential for a fork, so the move is knight f3 check, which not only rescues the black queen but also wins, because if the knight is taken then white's queen falls with check. There is two threats to the d2 bishop. If queen takes f3 then queen takes d2 check, winning the knight on c3, and white is lost. And the worst thing about queen takes b2, it's not just that black wins a pawn back, but this pawn like keeps white's queen side together, and now white's knights are both loose and the bishop, and lose pieces, lose games. And now he actually finally takes the knight, and after bishop takes c5, knight c4, knight takes g3, rook takes f8, rook takes queen e1, and black has got to win an attack here. This is a flawless attack by Kasparov. Knight takes e4 check, king g2. If knight takes bishop, then knight takes d2, knight takes d7 check. If the king goes to the back rank, then queen h2 is mate, and if king g3, white is mated by check and a mate by pawn, which would be embarrassing. Now king g2, queen c2, preparing to recycle the queen to a more active post where it can get the king. And look at I mean, after a few moves you'd think with that bishop on g2 and the pawns on g3, h2 and f2, white's king will be safe as houses, but look how open it is. There's like no protection whatsoever. And now knight takes e5. If rook c1, then queen d3 with threats against h3. Knight takes c5. And now Kasparov blunders with rook f2 check, which throws away the win. He should have played knight takes d2, knight takes d7 check, queen e2, now knight h4 check, king g1, now queen takes c3, and black is 2 pawns up, and white can try this desperate counter attack with queen e6 check, king h8 and knight takes f8, but this is mated by check, check, check and mate. And it looks like to me this isn't the only variation, but I've only got 15 minutes, and it looks as if the white is either getting mated or suffering heavy material losses because his king is just so open and his pieces are so uncoordinated. Anyway, back to the game. He has now blundered with rook f2 check, and now Korchnoi finds the correct defence by sacking his queen. After knight takes, rook a2, which stops queen takes d2, which would win. Queen f5, knight takes d7, knight d3. And now both players are in bad time trouble, but Korchnoi especially, and he throws away a draw now with bishop h6. I mean, Kasparov's rook f2 check was a blunder because white had a dangerous counter attack with rook a8 check, king g7 and rook a7, and white's strong counter attack provides enough compensation for the material. In fact, white's got enough for material here, and black's king's in danger. And this is enough to hold the balance, this. But he plays bishop h6, and after queen takes d7, rook a8 check, king h7, now he blunders again with rook h8, and after king f6, Kasparov just needs to match his king towards the centre, and white's down loads of material now and has got no chance. In fact, he plays king f3, allowing queen takes h3 check, total collapse in time trouble, and I think he lost on time here as well, but he's losing the bishop as well, and he's down so much material, so therefore he has to resign. But anyway, this was a very sharp Benoni game, this, very instructive and complex. And it also shows that although that if Korchnoi had played accurately, he could have got a draw, but overall Kasparov deserved to win because the way he went for the king and that peace sack as well, and it was just an incredible game, this. And this was before Kasparov was like world champion or anything, so it shows that he's been brilliant for a long time. And on our channel, and please subscribe if you want to see more amazing videos, but on the channel we've got loads of like Kasparov videos of him going through his games, and we've got 8 parts up now, and there's loads more to come once Tim C comes back from his holiday. And we've also got lots of Fisher stuff and history on Polish chess. And please subscribe to see it all. And I hope you've enjoyed this video and took something from it. Please leave any comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.